This is part 1 in the series Building an Obsidian Meta Plugin. A plugin that builds other plugins. That's the idea. This is part 1, where I do some of the planning, but I actually took a wrong step in this first part. I took a direction that I didn't end up doing in the long term. Feel free to skip this section entirely and jump to part 2, where I actually get into building the ultimate plugin that we created. Here's a quick demo of what we're building here. Let's first talk about project goals. What are we trying to do here? What are the goals of this project? So what is this project? This is Obsidian Meta Plugin. A plugin that will automatically write other plugins for you. So here's the vision. You are in Obsidian and you open Meta Plugin. Just grab what you want. And then Meta Plugin will, what will it do? Let's design this system real quick. It will understand which plugins it has created, if any. And this is so that it doesn't modify anything it shouldn't. So what it can do is it can create new plugins, it can modify plugins, and it can add whatever functionality you need. So you can customize Obsidian on the fly. And here's a sort of question mark. If you're having AI write code for you, especially code that's modifying a system that you use, like Obsidian, then you'll probably want to be able to revert back to whatever you had. So if Obsidian makes some changes, you want to be able to remove those changes. If this meta plugin creates new plugins, it's pretty easy. You can disable them, you can delete them. But what if it takes an existing plugin from one state to another state? It modifies functionality and it ends up not being what you want. You want to be able to revert that. So this could just be nice to have, not yet, post MCP, whatever you want to call it, which is what I'm thinking now, is that we just ignore this problem for now. Maybe it's not even a problem, who knows? But it's something to consider. And we have Git, of course. We're writing code on disk here, so we could just use Git for this use case, but it'll add complexity to figure out the user experience for reverting here, because there's no UI. At least there's no planned UI here. It's gonna just be a text box that lets you describe what you want. That's the thinking right now. Minimal UI, prove out the concept of Meta Plugin. So this is more or less the what. Let's talk about the how. How are we going to do this? Well, in short, my thinking is we create an MCP server. Obsidian plugin creating agent MCP server. That might be a mouthful. Basically, an LLM agent that can modify, has free reign over your Obsidian vault. Scary. Might be. Yeah, can't do that, right? Where's the scared, worried face? So this could be scary because you care about your Obsidian vault, obviously. If you use Obsidian in any capacity, you probably care about all of those notes. So, I'm thinking that we, or I, the royal we, I don't need to solve this necessarily. First of all, we're just going to implement MVP here. But second of all, there are ways to back up your Obsidian vault. For example, let's find the plugins. Let's open settings. So where's the plugin I'm thinking of? Git. This one, the one with all the installs, 1.5 million installs. This might not be ideal for all users, because if you don't know what Git is, that's going to be a little rough. But this is at least one option, and this is what I use in my main Obsidian Vault. You can see it in the background here. I have my notes about MCP servers. But I've created another vault for the purpose of development, because as I'm saying here, I don't want to risk my actual notes, even though it's probably fine because, like I said, I use this Git plugin, which means everything is in Git. Anyhow, all that aside, there's probably, I wonder if there's a backup, local backup. Great. So probably this one maybe. So the move, I guess, will be to recommend this plugin. I admittedly haven't tried it, but we can recommend this plugin if people are scared of using a plugin that will let AI modify your Obsidian Vault, which is very reasonable to not want that. But that is what we're doing. So let's add a miscellaneous section here. I'm just going to take some notes as I think of them here. Can use any model, any OpenAI compatible endpoint for starters. So this means OpenRouter. This means OpenAI itself, or if you have an adapter for other things like Anthropic. I actually made an adapter for Anthropic, so we could potentially integrate that. Anyhow, can use any model. BYOK, bring your own key. Bring your own key for now. And I was going to say must define vault location. But no, that is implicit because you're going to install a plugin in a vault. So never mind. Plugins are installed in a vault. So it is implicitly known. All right, so Obsidian Meta Plugin, blah, blah, blah. Meta Plugin will do these things. How? So we're going to create an MCP server. It's an LM agent. It can do whatever it wants with your Obsidian Vault. And the reason here is, in case it's not clear, given the goals, we want to have a plugin that can write other plugins. So why would it need full reign? Well, that is how you write plugins. We need to be able to create new plugins. Need to stuff, probably, I would guess. I think we need to know that. So when it comes to building an MVP, especially since this is only running locally for myself, this is not distributed to anyone yet, I err on the side of not security, if you will. Err on the side of letting the code do more and adding restrictions later. Don't start off in a restricted mode. And the reason is to move faster. That is it. Because if you start off restricted and you unrestrict as you go, I find it's slower. So we're going to move fast here. So an LM agent that has free reign over your Obsidian Vault, and maybe we could say, well, why MCP? Why MCP? And the answer is dev, ease of dev, I'm thinking. Which is to say, there are lots of MCP clients these days. For instance, Cursor, maybe Windsurf, not sure. I am not sure. Let's see. Does Windsurf code editor support MCP servers? We'll go ahead and ask AI. See what it says. Blah, blah, blah. Yes. All right. Good. Well, which one? This one, maybe? Let's move that into frame. Okay, so I think the answer is yes. Good. Back to the nodes. What is my point here? Ease of dev. Lots of clients. Great. composability. So although I myself here am interested in a meta Obsidian plugin, a plugin that can write other plugins, well, maybe you just want to have Claude Desktop write Obsidian plugins for you. Maybe you don't want to use this built-in plugin. And so for that reason, it would be nice to have this as an MCP server so that the users, whoever you are, can use this as you see fit. You don't have to use my implementation. And it could be that even for myself here, I don't end up making it a full plugin and I just use it as an MCP server to start. Because this will likely mean that I have to learn less of the Obsidian API. I myself don't want to learn the Obsidian plugin API. That's sort of why I want to create this. And because we have AI, I think it is an achievable goal not to have to learn it and then to build this plugin. So it may seem kind of silly, right? Not learning the API, but wanting to use it. Well, I think that is the future we're headed towards, if not already living in. The AI can figure it out for you. So anything specific like this, just give it the docs, which is what we're going to do. Give it the docs. Give it the docs. Already exist in LM friendly form. This is a research question. So we're going to have to figure this out. What is going on here? Where's the bold? Okay. Well, italics is more visible in this theme. Let's go with italics. All right. So we're going to need to find the docs. We're going to need to allow configuration, but that isn't important actually for the server element. So let's get started on the server, eh? So what exactly does it need to do? Actually, before we jump into the implementation, I myself need to remember a bit about MCP servers. There's some confusion in my mind because MCP servers, so let's pop over back to my notes here. MCP servers have various moving parts. So let's talk about MCP servers have tools. These are simple enough because it's just tool calls. So if you ever use tool calls, you know what these are. An MCP server can be thought of as just a grab bag of tools, but they also have prompts. What are those about? I'm not sure. Resources, is that what they're called? Where are those docs? I had those docs open at some point. Here, so this is actually, since we have this, we can, let's go ahead and ask, actually, maybe we just make a, I was going to say we could just ask AI, but what if, chat, what if we, hey, okay, great. That's fine, guys. Sure, whatever. What if we go and we make a new, where is it? New MyGPTs, sure. Create. All right. MCP master is the name of this. You are a coding assistant with an expert knowledge of the Model Context Protocol, also known as MCP. And we are going to want to, where's that document? Document, let's save this to downloads. All right. Help me understand the protocol and build with it quickly and effectively. Reference. Okay, start there. So I'm going to make a GPT here. I'm just going to store this in context so that I can come back to this and ask questions whenever. So as you saw, here we have the full documentation as a text file, which is great of Anthropic to provide for us. And I get that from here. So we have the Model Context Protocol website. I'm going to tell this to the AI too. Tell it to the AI. MCP officially documented at this website. MCP master. Whenever generating code or citing examples, use script, JavaScript if possible. So we want to stick to TypeScript JavaScript here because the context here is building an Obsidian plugin or building a system to interact with Obsidian, and Obsidian itself uses JavaScript. So we're going to stick with JavaScript, although you can write these servers in any language you want. So I'm just going to tell that, yeah, that's fine. Oh, let's see. Okay, this is probably done. Oh, I should also maybe give it, what did they say? Building with, they say also, copy the README from here, and also, where's README? README, and I mean the raw text of the README. That's what I want, raw. All right. Or let me save this as what? MCP TypeScript SDK README. So my thinking is that by doing this up front, by creating this GPT, it can serve as the expert and we can just ask questions rather than doing sort of one-off, handing these things to Cursor or to Windsurf or what have you. I'm just gonna put this in a GPT, and we also have these resources on disk now too for use with Cursor, with Windsurf, or with Claude Code. All right, saved that. And what about fast MCP? Get this thing. Is this the yes TypeScript version? So in this, documentation is here, I guess. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so once again, I want the README as raw text, raw. I'm going to save it, and this is the fast MCP README. Did I need that text? Okay. Here are some more documents for your reference. One is the README from GitHub for the TypeScript SDK for Model Context Protocol. And the other one is the README, also from GitHub, for FastMCP, a library that makes writing MCP servers more straightforward, in my opinion. FastMCP, okay, so from GitHub, SDK, for Model Context Protocol. Okay. So let's add these. I'm going to say you, add, and you, add. Great. Both uploaded. Where needed. So now I think we're done. And I'll wait till it updates, but then I'm going to ask a question over here. I'm going to say, well, I can't. Okay, there we go. I know that MCP servers can provide a list of tools. However, I'm not familiar with the other things that an MCP server can do. What are the other fundamental pieces of an MCP server? The fundamental functionalities that can be provided. Are we up to date? All right, great. Let's see. Yep, resources. Okay. Yeah, this makes sense. For the resources, you can get something, although my confusion around this when I first read it was that you have tools. Tools return something. So why, basically? Why have resources when you have tools? Tools correspond to functions. I mean, you can think of them as a post request if this is a get request. But tools roughly correspond to function calls. So a function can return anything. What is the purpose of these resources? Key aspect, inform the element, not to perform computation. But why separate them is what I wonder. Not to say this is not a good idea. Not exactly. I'm not criticizing this, but I don't understand why. What is the... Yeah, but I mean, why would you want to separate static or dynamic data from... Yeah, dynamic data too. Why would you want to separate this from the tool calls? Semantically, tool calls perform computation, but yeah, why? Not sure. We can ask, of course. So let's, I think maybe this is just a test chat here. So I should probably move this out. Prompts, sampling, roots. Okay. I'm just gonna, in case we don't get it back or we get something different, I'm gonna copy that. All right. All right, I'm just gonna save that. Save. All right, great. All right. Yeah, why not? Anyone. Yep, programming. Sure. All right, save, save, and publish and save. Great. So yes, I do. Actually, hold on. Configure, description. Okay, well, that's all. It's all fine. I don't foresee needing that. I'm not sure if we will need to run code. That seems possible. Canvas, I'm not exactly clear what Canvas is, but web search, yes, definitely we want that. So, let's see. Sure, why not? Actions. Okay. I'm going to consider this done and update. All right, and then I'm going to go to actually use this. All right, so here is the link. It says invite only. I'm not sure what that's about. I guess it is not public because it has not been vetted, perhaps. Anyhow, here we are, MCP master. Great. So let's put this in again. All right. Yes, tell me the answer, and then we can ask follow-up, such as why do resources exist? And the reason I'm asking this is because I sort of want to break down the functionality of this Meta Obsidian plugin into what? What do we have resources at all? I mean, tools, obviously. We want to have tools. I can imagine tools to create a new plugin, tools to read plugins, tools to read files on disk, excuse me, etc. But do we need resources? What would we even use prompts for? Oh, sampling strategies. This is controlling temperature, I guess, and other parameters. Yes. I hadn't read this next sentence, yes. Yet. Okay, sure. I don't think we'll need this. We're just gonna use some defaults, and that'll be that. Roots. Root agents. Maybe, because we want to build an agent here, but if this is experimental, then I'm not sure. All right. So one thing is we're going to have to configure the server to operate on some file path as the root. So let's start with that. Say, well, actually, first let me ask my question. Why? It seems to me that a tool call, being able to return data, can handle any use case of a quote-unquote resource. So why do resources exist separate from tool calls? Tool calls are a superset of the functionality. Quote unquote. You know, Whisper, I sort of want Whisper to put that in quotes, but it doesn't work. A resource. Okay. Let's see what the AI has for us here. Thanks, AI. A classic. Sure, but why? I get the distinction, but why? One might say that this is why we have select statements in SQL versus insert statements. But I don't think that really makes sense. In a lot of ORMs, you have a query API that is not meant to make mutations against your database, and you have the exec or execution API makes mutations. So I've seen this pattern before. I'm still don't get why though. Analogy, get and post. So maybe a better question is, why do we separate get and post? Because it's true that you could just use post for everything like we do with GraphQL. Well, you can also select which functions to call. So this, yeah. Not to say that there are not good reasons. I'm sure the people at Anthropic thought about this. I still don't see exactly why. Okay, security, blah, blah. Not ideal. Well, it would totally work just fine. Okay, so this hasn't answered my question. I mean, it gave me an answer literally, but I still don't exactly see why. But given that this here, so we might ask more generally why use get versus post requests. So anyhow, let's not worry about it. Let's ask a new question. So I'm building an MCP server that will integrate with a user's Obsidian vault on disk. An Obsidian vault, in case you're unfamiliar, is simply a directory on the computer that contains a lot of markdown files as well as some JavaScript and other configuration files. The plugin I want to build, or rather the MCP server I want to build, is going to be able to interact with the Obsidian vault. It will be able to, for example, read configuration files and read content files. Furthermore, this MCP server will be able to create and modify existing Obsidian plugins. I myself need sort of a refresher. Let's ask about Obsidian. So, how are Obsidian plugins stored on disk? Where are they? How can I check on them? Navigate to your vault. Sure, reveal finder. Okay. Okay, Obsidian Vault plugins. Okay, so let's go and see for my not here. This is the my actual Obsidian, what have you. So I just noticed that this was a blog post of mine. Did I publish this? Huh. Okay. Well, I guess this will all be published at some point. Back to here, this vault. So this vault on disk, we're going to go to that. Let's do it. So yes, here we are. Let's go over there. CD documents pkmi. So it just so happens, I don't remember why I named it this, but anyhow, I think it was pkm AI. Because I, at the time, wanted to build an Obsidian plugin that just interacted with my vault, read it, basically, searched over it. But this time, we are going to do more. We are going to create a plugin that can make other plugins. So let's see what is in Obsidian. Or let's use the Yaz, the library. If you're not familiar with this, if you care, where's this? This is a terminal file browser. Oh, right. Actually, there's MCP server and functionality and tools and resources, etc. That's fairly vague, but we'll just let it go at it. Okay, so here, there we go. So under plugins, we have, okay, so plugins are just, I don't know what data is for. So main.js is going to have a whole bunch of JavaScript, I imagine, for the data view plugin. We have a manifest. Okay, is desktop only. So this, let's see. So I suppose what we want, fundamentally, what is our extension going to do if it wants to create, modify a plugin? It is going to create a main.js. So we'll need to create a manifest. Let's see. Does this specify? No, it doesn't. So maybe main is just how these things work. Obsidian plugins. And import from Obsidian, etc., etc. And what is in here? Warning on empty result. Huh, what is all this for? Let's go to the other one, Skeledraw. This also has a, okay, so it has a data.json. Just looking at the structure here, I suspect that we need a main.js, and the AI is going to write that for us. We potentially don't need this because it has a different structure. I'm thinking that the Obsidian API, this thing over here, can likely store data in the data file, and that is that. At a guess. Okay, these are pretty simple. I don't know how to use the API yet, but we'll figure that out in due time, in due course. And we probably, let's see. Hey, Vim mode. We probably don't need to use these things, right? Community plugins. So to enable disable, maybe we mutate this array, I'd guess. Core plugins, configuration, graph, not sure what that's about. Hotkeys, sure. So our meta plugin will also be able to configure Obsidian for you, because why not? It can read and modify these files. So that is what we will do. We want to read and modify these files. So going back to our notes, yes. So having full read-write access to your Obsidian Vault is going to give us this functionality that we want. It can configure Obsidian as long as it can read files and modify files. It can configure Obsidian for you, which is nice. Oh, I see we have themes. Oh, right, we could ask. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up here, this part, because I'm going to change direction entirely. It was a mistake to pursue the MCP angle, at least for now, because using MCP in a generalized way would have locked us into having to do things manually, which is fine as a direction to go in. But the main thing I wanted to use here was Obsidian's built-in plugin API. So I want to expose the plugin API to a LLM agent, to the AI. And I can't do that on the command line because you have to be running inside of Obsidian to get access to that API. That API is running inside the runtime of the Obsidian Electron app. So, point being that an MCP server is not the answer here, at least not for now and not for this use case, which means I'm going to move away from MCP and just going to build an agent inside of Obsidian here. And the idea is that this agent is going to be an agent of agents, an agent, essentially a manager. And this manager is going to delegate tasks to his various sub-agents. I'm not sure yet how we're going to break it down, but my guess is something like an agent to manage the plugins, an agent to manage themes, and an agent to manage configuration, and finally an agent to manage content, something like that. These various domains inside of Obsidian have an agent for each one, but we'll see. That'll be the experiment, to figure out what works and what allows the AI to do as much as possible without breaking anything. We hope, because we are going to give it write access to the vault. All right, that's all for now. That's all for this part, and maybe I'll see you in the next part, which I will link up here when it is live.